surrounded, Mr. C, by a bevy of legends, fellow legends. Before we move on with talking about fellow legends, you've got a shirt on there that says League of Legends, and I'll point it out, and we've talked about it before, but maybe not in a while. Legendary Lee Canady, it came from, one day I came over this same museum-like Detroit apartment, and we filmed, just like we're doing now, and you had on this shirt, and I said, because you always have a reason for everything you do. You're very intentional. I said, what's the purpose of League of Legends? You said, well, I am a legend. And then it's like, well, legendary Lee Canady. They kind of sound like each other, kind of look like each other, almost like Dennis the Dentist. It's
really how this started.
And from then on, and so for the folks at home, if you want to know the origin story of legendary Lee Canady, you're the second documentary I've done, and the first one, my initial name, because it ended up just being called Roy R. Rowland's Life Story, parts 1 through 7, kind of boring.
This goes back right before high school. I'm still in grade school. Go down the basement, and we play down there. And I put a board under my shirt, took a knife and stuck it in the board, put red paint on it. I yelled and come up the steps and fell on the floor in the kitchen like I was stabbed in the back. My mother, God bless her, she went crazy. Oh my God, she don't know what to do.
My initial name for it was the Hebdomadal Rollins. Instead of the Abominable Snowman, the Hebdomadal Rollins, or the Weekly Rollins. Here with Roy Rowlands, we're going to talk about Woodstock. Sum it up in like a sentence or a paragraph. Woodstock, when you hear that word, what comes to your mind?
Oh, Jesus. Good times.
That's where my love of the word hebdomadal comes from. I think of him every time I say it. My good friend Roy Rowlands. But anyways, you are a legend, and we find ourselves today, as always, in your museum-like Detroit apartment, or as most of the time, and we're surrounded, as always, when we're here, by all these pictures of legends. And before we started recording today, you mentioned you wanted to talk about maybe a couple of these pictures, and you can pick any one of them that's around us right now, and we can show it to the camera. We can talk about these people right now.
Well, it's got me out for surprise.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? How about I'll just ask you.
Everybody, all these pictures around me.
Each of them has a different meaning.
Each one of them have a different meaning,
So I'll kind of go around now. A photographer friend of yours, that on the far left there is a picture of you in front of the Fox Theater. I interviewed you in front of the Fox Theater one time.
Yes.
But this is a picture someone else took of you. It's the cover of a book.
Right. Someone recommended her to me, and I had never. She's from Ann Arbor.
Keep talking. We're just gonna put on.
And we was on my scooter. I took her around, like up to Birch. Yeah. We went through where Diana Ross lived, through the project. We just riding, talking. She was filming, and got in front of the Fox Theater, and she took a picture of that and did that book, and it's a nice book.
Oh, yeah.
And it has a lot of people, permanent people that live down here in this area, the doctors and some of the names of the people, important people. I think Isaiah McKinney live in fact, I know he does, down the street here.
Last summer, didn't we had an interview in the park by your apartment, and we ran into one of the other subjects of the same book. Right. We talked to this kind lady, and that was very cool to run into someone else who was part of that.
Right. Yeah. But the name of the book is Wise Generation, and it's got a lot of people. Got people from Detroit in here, like Lottie the Body.
Yeah, the original stripper.
She was a stripper
in Detroit.
And very famous. In fact, she was married to Goose Tatum.
Okay.
And I met her, and we became friends, and
of course.
And then, not thinking, come to find out, Goose Tatum was related to my first wife when I got married at 15 years old.
Wow, what a
Goose
small
Tatum
world.
is from my hometown.
Wow.
El Dorado, Arkansas. He lived, I think, out in Junction City, and he see people that had a drive-in down in St. Louis. There, it was called. There was Powell, I believe. That was Goose Tatum's sister. So Goose Tatum, when he left, what's his name, Sebastian,
Okay.
Harlem Globetrotters.
Oh, wow.
He left. They was in Detroit, and he
Yeah.
left, broke his contract, and he came to hide out
Wow.
back to our hometown.
Yeah.
And he came to our school. He played our basketball team. We got our seniors, and we all played against Marcus Haynes, the world famous dribbler,
Man.
and Goose Tatum, because Goose Tatum from our neighborhood, so he wanted to come to our school and put on an exhibition just for the kids, and we were so
Right.
excited.
Yeah.
And so he stayed down there during the summer, and he had a Cadillac, a photo Cadillac, and he had a turntable in the trunk.
Wow.
And he would stop on the side of the road and put an apple on and play it. And it was really cool.
Yeah.
You know, that was for, they was in cars, but he had one in this car, but he had to stop to play it because it would be scratching, you know.
Because the bumps, yeah.
Right. So Goose stayed down there for, I think, during the summer.
Wow.
Yeah. And when I came here, and I was saying, I met Lai.
Right. Lot of the body.
And we was friends. And
His
right.
wife, yeah.
And come to find out, she was married to Goose Tatum. I hadn't connected the dots. And there was another guy played with Goose Tatum when he Harlem Globetrotter. He was named as Vance Phillip.
Okay.
Wait a minute. Yeah, Vance Phillip. And he and I was friends. I was best man when he got married.
Wow. That's friends.
And
yeah.
he was traveling with the Harlem Globetrotters at
Wow.
the time. And he was from my, city.
Yeah, your hometown.
Uh-huh. He didn't go to my school. He went to school out in the country. Another school like Three Creeks. They had names like that. What else they had? But anyway, he was from those small schools. And our city was the biggest city in southwest El Dorado, southwest Arkansas.
Wow.
Little Rock was the largest.
You were number 2.
And we was number 2.
After the capital.
Little Rock.
After the capital of the
It's
state.
called El Dorado, Arkansas.
Yeah.
And Goose Tatum lived in Junction City, Arkansas.
Wow. Just down the way.
Right.
You were essentially neighbors all your life. I mean, until you moved.
But we didn't know each other then.
Right. Yeah.
And I would see him down there. Didn't even know I was married to his wife. I'm not his wife, his cousin. I'm a relative at the time. In fact, they didn't hardly know. They didn't even talk about it. Yeah. I learned of this since I've been in Detroit, I think. I found that all this happened. Some people, good people came from Arkansas, my hometown. There was another one. His name was Green. What was his name? He was the first airplane pilot, black.
Right.
For Michigan here.
Yeah, and he was at
Marlon Green. Was it Marlon Green? Well, his brother and I was his classmates, and his brother was he was his younger brother. He and I was classmates. We finished in '54, but
and we're here just outside of Eastern Market in Detroit. Your apartment. And Eastern Market, Gratiot and Russell, Gratiot Avenue and Russell Street. That's kind of like the entrance of Eastern Market. You go down Gratiot north away from Detroit, and you're going to run into if you turn left eventually, you're going to run into the airport that he used to be a pilot at, just down Gratiot, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Duncan Flying. I think it was called Duncan Flying School or something like that.
I used to at one of my old jobs in Detroit, I used to do deliveries. I would drive past it like maybe once a week or more. Yeah.
Donald Bird came in, walked into the store. I don't remember who was with him. And so he didn't tell me. I was taking him where he was going, and I took him to the airport.
Yeah.
And he flew in on an airplane. He rented a plane and flew it down and came to the store. And he was playing it up in some parts of Michigan. And he was going to come down the next day to pick me up or whenever, and going to take me and I wouldn't fly with him. And so we went to see him. We went there, and so we walked into the club. He was playing. And when we walked in, he started playing and started talking about me. I was scared to fly and that kind of, he did, yeah, down bird, yeah. We was very good friends.
Yeah,
They always see me.
it's so crazy. You were a man about town, and the borders, as it were, the outer extremities of that town, so to speak, proverbially, could have been much broader than they were, given the fact that you could have been a jet setter easily. You could have gone from Detroit to Chicago to New York to LA, maybe even overseas, across the pond. Everyone wanted you, but you didn't want to fly.
I don't fly, dig. I don't trust people. I just don't.
Well, let me ask you. You as a teenager, so young, a lot of kids don't even have a car, don't even know how to drive. You're already not just driving a professional driver. You're a cabbie as a teenager. Let me ask you this question. You say you don't trust other people operating the vehicle that you're in. Do you think that came from being a cabbie and just seeing the wrong way it's done and you doing it the right way and being like, well, a plane's a lot bigger than a cab.
See what stupid people do
and
today.
In the air
see what people do each day.
Yes, sir.
And see what people have done.
In general,
since I've been on this planet.
Yeah, it's not just the cab.
I don't trust food.
Now, I'm sorry.
I don't eat out either.
You had a lot of jobs all through your life.
Not a lot of jobs.
Interesting.
I've always worked, but there wasn't a lot of jobs. See, when I was working in school.
Not at once. You had a variety of jobs over the years. We'll say that. Yeah.
Right. When I started my first real job, I couldn't.
Okay.
Well, the job that I worked on a pop truck. When I first got a job, I don't know what they were giving.
In Arkansas, were you?
Yeah, but when I left, ran away from home, you understand? Because I left and I caught the bus and went to LA. I tell you, I got a job at Coca-Cola.
Okay.
And what I did was, the guy, truck driver, with all the pop, he got to take them around to the delivery.
Right.
So I was his helper.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So when he drives the truck, I had to get the pop off the truck and take it into the
with a hand truck and
with a hand truck.
Yeah.
So I did that for a while, but it was a hard job, and I didn't like that. I was a young kid. I was only 15.
Yeah.
And those bottles and case was heavy.
Yeah, were they wood like this?
Right.
Yeah.
When it first came out, And so
these are from the 50s and 60s. These are Twin Pines dairy.
This was in the 50s. I don't know.
Yeah, so it was wood. It was definitely wood back then. It wasn't cardboard.
Right, and every company, that's what they carry this stuff around. Them cardboard, whatever, and use them paper bags then.
Right.
What kind of bag? They use sacks.
Okay. I got so many things.
You carry it in a sacks.
Yeah,
they call them a sack, a croaker sack, or whatever. You dig?
Yeah, all kinds of sacks.
All kinds of sacks.
Yeah.
I've known my mother used pillowcases for a sack. You dig? So,
or use a sack for a pillowcase. You mean?
Or if they want to carry something around.
Use a pillow. Okay, I see what you're saying.
Anything. You got to use your head. You don't have it. You know what I'm saying? You got to make it to do what you got.
I don't mean to derail this conversation, but you've brought this up before. I'm not sure if I responded like I wanted to, but it's something that always kind of stuck in my head that you talked about when you were young in Arkansas. You've said various examples of how you always worked harder. You really put your nose to the grindstone. And you applied yourself, and you always tried to have a little nicer standard of living than other people. Not that you're trying to be better than them or compete with them. Just kind of personally, you had higher standards just for yourself. And you talk about when you're a kid, you'd have your overalls, your Lee blue jeans, and you'd get them that cost maybe $1 or $2 more than the regular ones, or you'd have your khaki pants than the other kids had. And I'll never forget one thing you mentioned is some of the kids, they had their clothes were made out of sacks.
Right. Especially girls.
And two things came to mind. One thing that you mentioned and one thing you didn't. So something you mentioned was sometimes it'd be a manure sack, and I'm like, wow, I wonder if it itched because manure, you know. And then the second thing is, and here's my question
Not
to
a
you.
manure sack, fertilizer.
Well, it's poop, it's manure, fertilizer, same thing.
Well, okay.
But then my
I
second
hadn't thought of it that
question
way.
is, my second question, and you're raised in the church, you were a Methodist, and so I'm sure you've heard the phrase from the Bible, like when someone was sad, traditionally, you know, like they have different traditions there in the Middle East. If it was a common person all the way up to the king, what they would do to signify to the world that they were mourning, you know, like some people, like a police officer, they'll put like a black band over their arm or a black band over their badge to be like, I'm in mourning, or even just a regular person will put a black band over their arm if someone died, like, you know, just be kind to me today or for a little while. Back in, you know, 2000, 5,000, several thousand years ago, the way they signified that, it was called sackcloth and ashes. They would rent their clothes, they would put ashes over their head, and then they'd wear sackcloth. And I just think it's curious that wasn't like the thing to go down to. This was the starting point for a lot of your neighbors.
Well, just think.
It's just interesting.
Just think. I
Interesting.
mean, the world hadn't been here that long. When people first born, we was uncivilized, right? Were we? I don't know.
It depends on who's looking at it. You know, maybe they didn't think they were. Yeah.
People eating.
According to who?
They didn't know anything about cooking. How they gonna know how to read? I mean, you got to get started from somewhere. Just think, you didn't all come in knowing how to do damn thing.
I'm just talking about how humble the origins.
Yeah, I understand. They didn't wear clothes
Crazy.
when they first came here. You understand? I mean, and when I came, kids, you go to someone's house, the kids be 4 or 5 years old, maybe walking around with no clothes on.
Well,
ain't nobody there but them.
Well, no, okay,
family.
I want to clarify though. Your favorite president, your third favorite president is Reagan. Your second favorite president is Donald John Trump. Your favorite president, Abraham Lincoln. Your favorite president grew up in Illinois in a log cabin, very humble, and until he was 5 years old, the only clothes he had was a shirt, an old shirt from his father that he wore. That's all he had to wear until he was 5, and he became president. I'm just saying the humble origins. That's
all I'm saying.
Yeah.
I came out of what I came from, and I did what I did.
Right.
And is ABC and 1, 2, 3. I'm just connect the dots.
Right.
All it means something. You don't have to go and like I always said that I would never send my kids to school with the money. I mean to college. I would help them go, but they would have to want to go themselves. That means they got to work. Okay, I'm going to contribute. I'm going to help them go. But if you send them, which a lot of parents do, rich people, whatever, the kids come out, they're not learning anything.
You don't want to just give it to them.
They just get right. I want them to earn. They know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And when you get in power, something, you know what to do with it and how to handle it.
Yeah.
You know, and that's why going to school, I told you I was sitting in class, taking night classes, and it's the only time I ever had a white teacher. They had white teachers at my school, and I was taking classes at night. And there was a fight was on, I think it was Eddie Chard or somebody was fighting. I always loved boxing. And I was sitting there doing my work, and I said, damn, I want to see this fight. 2 and 2 is 4, and A, B, C, and 1, 2, 3. I said, now I got to go do all of this to learn how to live here.
Yeah.
The shortest distance between the 2 points is a straight line.
Right.
So, and the people who are teaching you something, if they knew all this, why aren't they making more money than they're making?
Yeah, it's got to play out.
Right.
Or else it's not true.
You take a business school. I spoke at 2 terms at the graduating class. Yeah. They asked me for the 3rd time, but I was busy. I didn't go the 3rd time. Right there on State Street. But now you take that lady. She had a business school. When you teaching somebody, say she getting, I don't know how much she get in a month, a year. Say $100,000 a year. I just call a figure.
Right.
Okay. And she teaching me business, right?
Right.
Not me, other people.
Right.
Now, how can she teach me to make more money when she's not making more money? Why are you selling for $100 a year when you can make more?
Yeah.
You follow what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
It's kind of screwy.
As they say nowadays, make it make sense.
It doesn't make sense that
Right.
she's teaching me, but she's not getting it.
Right.
That you don't teach me how to fly, jump out the window. You jump first.
Right.
Then I follow you.
Amen.
Maybe.
Oh man. Well, it's funny you say that, talking about jumping out of a building. The CIA files, some of them, not all of them, a few more from the JFK assassination were just released, I believe this or last week, where they mentioned that there was an Israeli spy, like a proto-Mossad spy, that was possibly involved in the assassination of JFK. All these years we thought it was a Russian, a communist job. Maybe it was Israel. Who knows who did it? But
I don't know. I don't like to speculate who did
exactly.
it. But I just know James Earl Ray.
The shooter of MLK.
Because I saw every episode. I saw every trial, every footage when he got shot in the jailhouse. I was looking at it live when it happened.
Oh no, you're talking about. I'm
talking the whole thing about John F. Kennedy. Everything was on television.
Not
I
James
saw
Earl
it.
Ray. The other guy, the guy who shot Oswald,
That's what I'm
Oswald,
talking about. Yeah.
Lee Harvey Oswald,
Right.
when Jack Ruby shot him.
Right. I was watching it when it happened.
Yeah,
in real time.
Yeah, Rubenstein is his actual name, and he was also part of the Jewish mob. So it was very perhaps the reason that people are speculating why because Trump could have released the documents when he was president, and surprisingly to a lot of people he didn't. Maybe the reason he didn't was because we had the Abraham Accords. We were making a lot of headway with Israel, and it probably would have just been like a what do you call it, a black eye in their past that we just sort of maybe wanted to move beyond. Who knows the motivations? But the point is, in all this talk about the CIA being involved in taking out a president, and that's like 60 years ago. What more can they do now? They're talking about CIA tactics, and one of them is the easiest way to fake a death is killing someone with your bare hands. And the second best way is to push them out of a building from 75 feet or higher. And I can't help but think of the genius of Stax Records there in Memphis, Tennessee, Donny Hathaway. Donny Hathaway, sadly, he was schizophrenic, multiple personality disorder. And I knew, or I still know, the man who was his booking agent at the end of his life, at the time of his death, in fact, and who I said, because people said that he jumped out of the hotel he was staying in Chicago right before a show or after a show. And I asked his booking agent, I said, do you think he was killed? Because that was the other rumor. He's like, I lean toward that he was killed. And as the CIA says, 75 feet or higher is pretty much guaranteed fatal. But Florence Kewell loved Donny Hathaway. She loved This Christmas, that Christmas song. And I think you put up with it, but I think you said she played that one to death.
Yeah, she did. That was a big seller. It was big. It was making money, but it played. We played it in a 45, and right behind one another. I don't know what album was off then. They were hardly making albums. Thing was just getting started.
Yeah.
And we just getting started. It's just at the time of the year. It was the time that we opened our business. That's good.
Yeah.
I wanted to been saying that some time, but what I'm saying is that, like Jerry Butler, He'll Break Your Heart. That was another one. We played it all the time because we had a record player. You put a disc in 45, right?
Right.
And you put a record in, and come back and go over again, over and over again. I'm saying that. That's what happened, but I loved it because it was making money.
Let me ask you. This is a great topic. This is a great idea for someone to watch and learn by. What are songs that you remember over the years that just, like for instance, at your house, you told me last week that in the reel-to-reel tape recorder or tape player that you gave me, one of the reels that you also gave me is ABC.
Yeah.
Easiest 1, 2, 3, and you would have that on a loop. Now that was one song. what are other songs, or like This Christmas, what are songs that just were on repeat, whether you or Florence or just in the record store over the years you remember?
Well, I'm always playing records, music on the outside. When you open up the store, turn the lights on everything, you turn on everything that works for your day. Cash, all the lights turn on.
You got 3 record players, loudspeakers outside, one right when you get into the store and in the back of the store. 3 all the time.
Right. But those in the stores are for the play for the people who want to buy an album, who may want to. I had more than one. I had 13 employees. I had 13 employees, not working at one time, but people have off days. I'm saying I had 13 employees. Right.
Yeah.
And so my point is that what do you think they're going to be doing? Are looking? You know, you do something. You got to sell something. That's what you do. You sell something. You sell records. You selling. If you waiting to be waited on, and this employee taking care of you, playing record what you like, sir, and you like this, that, and that, and tell you question on, and over here doing the same thing. You got everything working at the same time. Instead of having one person, you got 5 or 6 people doing the same damn thing. Right. It's called multiplying.
Right.
So that's business.
Amen. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, you had This Christmas was on repeat with Florence Kewell. You just mentioned another song that was on repeat. Back at your house, you had ABC 1, 2, 3, and your friends would make fun of you, like, you like Michael Jackson. You said, I love that line. I think he was here before. What was it? I think he was here before us. Or?
Yeah, because he knew how to make love. He knows what to tell a girl. He knew how to make her feel good. I mean, he had all the things.
Now, some people talk about an old soul, but what you say kind of goes beyond that. Almost like he's almost like the reincarnation, or just something about him just comes from a deeper well.
If you come in the world and you're young, you don't know A from B, nothing, right? And he knew all this at that young age, which some people.
Precocious.
Look, people never get to know that much. They never experience that way, you know.
Yeah, he was a castrati. A lot of people say.
Never got married. You understand? He did all that.
Yeah. Who was it? George something. The doctor who was charged with his death. George something. His last name starts with
I remember.
I forget his name, but that guy wrote a book. I'm not sure if I think he wasn't even allowed to make profits from it, which all the more because he's in jail, which all the more, how do you say it, shows that he wouldn't be lying. Because he was Michael Jackson's personal doctor at the time of his death, which he caused according to the courts, as far as I remember. He said in his book that when he examined Michael Jackson, he said that Michael Jackson had been chemically castrated as a child by his father, because there's a thing in opera called a castrata or castrato, where this is gruesome, but for hundreds of years ago, it was a traditional thing like the Italian opera or the European opera. They would do a gruesome thing with little boy singers. They would castrate them, and so then their voice would never drop. So they would always have like this haunting, high-pitched voice, and the allegation is when Michael Jackson was a child, his father chemically had this done to him. That's why he had such a haunting voice. And you have to imagine maybe what that did psychologically to someone. Certainly it made him, even though it didn't make him grow up in one way, it made him grow up in maturity a lot faster. Who knows? He was a genius. No two ways about it. Who is it? Quincy Jones, right? The composer Quincy Jones, who worked with him through the 80s. Quincy Jones is a man credited with making the adult Michael Jackson into a star, because he worked with him, I think, through the decade of the 1980s. Quincy says, no two ways about it, Michael Jackson was a genius.
Well, I mean, I agree with that. He had to be. I just was talking about, to know what he did at a young age. And Quincy Jones, he worked with him. See, Quincy Jones came and visited me about 3 or 4 times.
Oh, yeah, do tell.
Yeah. So it's no thing, about he just, he did when he did the new label, Impulse label.
Okay.
He had Chaka Khan on there, and he had something. A lot of things he did with that label. I was working with him on that, and he was in the store promoting that and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But with Michael Jackson, I don't know what he did. His personality, that people said, I don't gossip like that. I don't know what they did. It's not, they say he beat him. I don't know what they did. I don't know, that people, like I always heard he said and she said is the biggest lie there ever was.
You're right.
I said, she said, I have, all that you said that, I had never heard that before. I had never heard any of that before. No, I don't read the gossip news.
Yeah.
You dig what I'm saying? Because people say anything, and all they do is conspiracy theory. That's what I was talking about before.
Yeah.
Unless you know, it's all this conspiracy.
Well,
You know?
the joke is though, the reason why the phrase conspiracy theory ever became such a colloquial hit is because the spooks, the CIA, the spies, the people in the three-letter agencies, the alphabet orgs, artificially pushed that as a dysphemism or a put down of people looking into the deeper meaning of things to try to dissuade them or others like them would be from doing the same or quote unquote worse.
Well, see, again, every different stroke for different folks. There's always got somebody always trying to gain whatever you're doing, man.
Right.
I don't care if you're selling peanuts and you have somebody distribute them for you. Some of those distributors gonna eat some of them while they distribute them.
Pilfering.
That's all it is. That's the way the world is.
Yeah.
So it's nothing new.
Nothing new under the
It's
sun.
nothing new. And you can expect anything. All I just try to do is keep my nose clean on what I'm doing.
Ain't that the truth? Now, I would like to talk about some of the pictures around you, and while you can think about any of them that you want to talk about, but while we're waiting for that, actually, but before that, I'm going to ask you about a couple more pictures. But I was going to say I've got some music I can play that I didn't play last time, but we can do that as a fallback. These other pictures, here's we've talked about it before, but I don't think we've ever shown the cover on camera. Images of America, Motor City Rock and Roll, the 1960s and 1970s.
Oh, yeah. That book, but he's from Detroit, I think. What's his name? Douglas?
Bob Harris and John Douglas Peters.
He wrote that book.
And this was, let me just so people can look it up and buy it for themselves. Arcadia Publishing, and the year it was published,
I think if they just
2008.
Google Motor City Rock and Roll 1960, 1970, everything will come up there.
From Arcadia Publishing,
Google my name, of
arcadiapublishing.com. Now let me just show it on camera here, just so the people at home can see it.
And that was a big honor for me because
now you're in this right here.
Yeah, and the signature at the bottom page is Damon Keith. Damon Keith, the fellow judge.
I'm trying to straighten this out. I'm very bad at like that. So there's Lee, like right here, or right here. Okay, now let me show it to the non-existent audience right here. So there's Lee right there.
They can Google it by Motor City Rock and Roll.
Oh, and then
1960, 1970. Of course, Google my name on there, and it'll come up.
2008 published, so maybe around 2007 or 2006. Because didn't it take a couple of years before?
Yeah, when he came over, he was downtown taking pictures at the fountain.
Around 2006 or 7.
Yeah, the fountain hadn't been open that long, and I was on my bicycle.
Oh, at Campus Martius, that
right.
one? Okay. Campus Martius Park.
And we started talking conversation.
Right.
And he told me what he was doing, his history, something like that he was writing about.
Yeah.
And so he didn't say, but I don't know. But anyway, I told him what I had done.
Right.
My achievement.
Yeah.
But, he blew it off. He didn't blow it off. He just didn't do anything about it.
Right.
So there's a friend of mine that I've known for a long time. He owned a bar, and he's like a Rodale bar off of Van Dyke there. He came up in my store because he'd be downtown. He used to work for the attorneys, taking subpoenas around to people. That's all he ever did. I know anything.
Wow.
Anyway, he called me one day, and he says, I happened to run in downtown, and he said this guy wanted to know if I had some pictures and whatever memorabilia. And so he came back. We made an appointment. He came back here. When he came in, he didn't expect to show these pictures.
Your museum-like
Yeah, and
apartment.
he was really blowed his mind. And he said he was going to put me on the cover of that book.
Wow.
And 2 years later, when he came to, I had let him have the picture. And I just thought, he got my picture because it's the only one I had. I had but once before I lent some pictures to somebody, and they didn't get them back to me, But anyway, so one day after 2 years, phone rang.
2 years.
He came out. He said he wanted to bring pictures, something to that effect. And it surprised me. He brought the book. He said, I didn't put you on the cover of the book. I said, but guess what?
Like
Who
you
beat
promised.
you out? He said, Rolling Stone. I said, Rolling Stone beat me out? I said, I can kneel for that. The Rolling Stone? I mean, I came in second? And, I was, I'm telling you, to be mentioned my name in the same sentence of the Rolling Stone, man, I think is great.
Amen. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. No.
And so that's how the book came out.
Yeah, I'm laughing because 2 years he had. God bless him that he followed through ultimately, almost like the parable of of the 10 lepers and like 2 came back. Weren't there 10? Where are the other 8? At least he came back, or the parable of the 2 brothers, or better put, one says, the father tells both of them to go out and work, and the one says, oh, I'll come back and I'll tell the rest. So there's a parable in Los Biblia, El Biblio, La Biblia. There's a parable in the Bible, Jesus said, of 2 brothers told by their father, go out and work. One says, I'm not going to work, and then he feels bad and works. The other said, I am going to work, and then he feels lazy and doesn't. And Jesus is like, which one's better? And the people listening are like, well, the one who ultimately did it all. It's how you finish ultimately, I suppose, that counts. Though the lead up to it, sure, I ought to, if properly done, be itself proper. But I forget what that was linking to because I had to get up and change cameras. But I thought it was funny that at least your photographer friend came through in the end. That's what counts. But I thought it was funny that it took 2 years on account of the fact that, you and I have been recording for about 2.5 years now, and just about from the moment I met you, I mean, immediately I wanted to record you, but as soon as I could, I started recording you, and here we are, 2.5 years late and counting later. Hopefully,
sometimes
forever.
People put too much on the plate.
You're right.
That's all. That's the
overcommit, and make too many promises. Yeah.
Yeah, until you got to ABC, you got to do things sequentially. That's all I put. That's what I always stress to you. You understand what I'm saying? It took them 2 years. Somebody else might have taken them a few months.
Well, that's my wisdom. You always have the golden rule.
Right.
My one piece of wisdom for me is how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? I'm a simple man, and so I try to live a simple life. And to I don't do a lot, but one of the activities I'm involved in is putting out your life and legend to the world. Which are the same. You've had a legendary life.
Very grateful for you to do that.
Honor and pleasure.
Because that's the way it was.
I'm glad. And we're always, every time I talk to you, new stuff.
And sometimes things that happen that unbelievable.
Oh my word! Yeah. Last week even we talked about how the first platinum record out of Detroit, Smokey Robinson and the Miracles Chaperone on the fledgling Motown record label. Immediately after they were done recording that record, we already talked about it. They came over, and who did they first think of to tell about it? To tell you.
Right.
You were part of the history so much.
Well, this is
more
true,
than that
but
even.
the thing about it is, I just happen to be the one who could list the records to who I talk to Billboard magazine every week.
Right.
Every Monday, Billboard
Rosalie
magazine
Trombley
called
would
and want to
program
know
radio.
what I'm selling. Now,
Yeah.
who wouldn't want? If you got a record out, who wouldn't want to get on Billboard? If there's only one bridge to go across the river, that water, which one you gonna go to?
You were the gatekeeper and a good one
That's
at that.
just as simple as that.
Yeah.
You can't put it another way. You can talk around it all you want. It still come back to the same procedure. You understand what I'm saying? And of course, they came to us.
And you could put your money or put their money where your mouth was, or where people's rumors were of you. In other words, here's a question. I'll say it in the positive, and then I'll ask it in the negative. The positive way of saying it is, you batted 1,000, as they say. I don't follow the sports, but you had 100% batting average. Or to put it negatively, in a question, was it ever the case that you tried to help out a group and you just couldn't quite help them break through in the airwaves or in sales?
Yeah, everybody doesn't make it. Of course, everybody doesn't get to know.
Any that you remember that people came to you and said, "Hey, could you help us out?"
Well, you can make it, but you didn't get a million seller. How compared to what?
Yeah, it's all relative at a certain
Right,
point.
you might have made $10,000, but compared to what? Somebody didn't make nothing.
Everyone was helped by you. It's just how much. Yeah.
Right, some sold $1 million. Everybody can sell $1 million. You can't. You got to have the stuff too. You got to have the right stuff. Oh, it takes all
Ain't
that
the
to
truth.
make
The X factor, or whatever.
right. Everything involved. Like I said, is what it is. If they had to change it, it'd have been something else. Like Smokey wrote the word. My mama told me to shop around.
Yeah.
That hit every person that I know.
Well,
Because when and the words that he said, before we don't get married, everybody want to get married and get a girlfriend. You better shop around.
now,
And it came out what reality.
Now, two things. I'm going to work backwards from or closer to now, which is actually in this case about 40 years ago, and further from now, which is about 60 years ago. Now, 40 years ago, in the early 80s, Smokey Robinson, he at that point was a solo act, and he came out.
I like him at that.
And he came out with a single. I forget the exact title, but it was essentially "You Better Not Shop Around," or something of the sort, almost like a response song to his earlier song, "Shop Around," and that I believe was in 1983. I want to say. Do you remember Smokey Robinson having his 20 years later response song, "The Shop Around"? If not, that's fine.
I don't remember that because I wasn't into rock and roll.
Okay.
Like I said,
Now,
I forget things. That's
Now, I'm going to do a listen in with Lee. Now, this is another, don't shop around response song, but made contemporaneously or just after as a response song to Shop Around. I want to see if you recognize it. I'm going to hit play. I'm going to play it on the off-camera speakers we have here.
okay.